equality.
The awakening.
Feel the elections with the rule of law.
The awakening.
Adequate protection of human rights.
The awakening.
Let's come together, put our hands together.
The awakening.
Let's come together, put our hands together.
The awakening.
Nigeria is our pride. Let's hold her accountable.
The awakening.
A very lovely good afternoon to you and welcome to 92.5 in Eagles Dream FM. This is The Awakening. I'm sure you're trying suppose you're thinking you're going to be hearing the voice of lyrics, but I'm standing for lyrics today. My name is Jefferson, the name that will never change. I'm not here alone, obviously. I'm here with Winifred Maduko. Winifred, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another exciting edition of the Awakening program. So if you do not know, or today is your first time of listening, it is an initiative of South Saharan Social Development Organization with support from the Open Society Initiative West Africa, OSIWA, and the UK Department for International Development, DFID. So it's a youth-focused civic enlightenment program for democracy and good governance.
All right, now today we're going to be looking at the problems that came about with the COVID-19. Now, since the emergence of COVID-19 pandemic, there has been a huge worry with the condition of youths regarding their psychological and emotional well-being. On the closure of schools, the lockdown, physical and social distancing, the mandatory use of face masks have brought about some mental problems with negative psychological effects on young Nigerians. Now, the impact of the pandemic on the socio-economic, political and psychological livelihood of people in the society have put the general population at risk of mental health distress. Now, this week on the Awakening program, we're going to be looking at the extent. We're going to be discussing at a very large extent, trying to dissect and enhance the mental health of of the young Nigerian during this pandemic. Now, we'll also be highlighting the role of the government and other relevant stakeholders regarding the welfare of young Nigerians. Now, also, I have a special guest in the building. I've been joined by Ugu Christian Chukuma. He's a pharmacist and secretary, a young pharmacist group, PSN YGP. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing?
Listeners, I'm good.
You look pretty handsome.
Thank you.
Right, so you're welcome. Let's start the conversation. Would you say, right, obviously it's no doubt that when people, for example, I know psychologically when people plan or have certain plans and it doesn't go their way, that could also plunge them into mental health distress. What do you think has come, or what do you think the COVID-19 pandemic came with it, and how do you think what impact do you think it has had on young Nigerians so far?
Okay, thank you very much. The mental health as a whole topic is complex, and which is evident that in this COVID-19 era, which has been locked down, majority of businesses, both small scale and large scale, has been affected negatively. And to a large extent, this has brought about a huge loss in economic, and also most persons have lost their job in the process. So to a large extent, this pandemic has increased the mental health issues, because if you look around, the lockdown has crippled businesses. I know definitely an idle mind is a devil's workshop. So the whole pandemic issue has, to a large extent, has increased the mental issues on ground among the youth. And definitely you have to know that the youth, which forms a greater majority that has been affected, check out the population of Nigeria, about 200 million. The youths ranging from 15 to 24 years, approximately, based on research, 14.98%. That's to tell you a large percentage of the youths, which are really affected. And also, if you look at it, early onset of these mental illnesses doesn't come at the post-adulthood. It starts from this early youth age, starting from 14 to 24 years, where they are exposed to vulnerable dispositions. And to a large extent, at this point is where their formation begins, and not everyone has the capacity to control their emotions and behaviors. So in any slight dysfunctional situation in society, it really affects them. So to a large extent, it has affected the Nigerian youths.
All right, now I've also been joined by Vanessa Nadi. She's emotional and mental health coach and convener at Moments with Vanessa. You're also welcome to the studio, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Right, so let me start with you also. Let me throw this question to you. Some people are skeptical about mental health issues in Nigeria. For example, Nigeria, they say Africans are not the kind of people that go see a shrink or therapist for mental health related issues. Say it's un-African. And when you talk about COVID-19 pandemic and the challenges or the mental health problems that came with it, they're not necessarily a believer to just say it's not something, it's a white man's problem. What would you say to those people, and how do you break it down the effect that this pandemic has on young Nigerians?
Okay, when the whole pandemic got to this side of the world, which was like a few months ago, and then it later resulted in the whole lockdown and every other thing that has followed suit till date, you can find out that a lot of things have happened. A lot of things in terms of emotional and mental health of people. Most times the loud cry is on the economy, the financial side, and all that. Why people overlook the mental and emotional side of it all. But during this pandemic, because of I run programs around this area, bringing in speakers and all that. So it, forces people to speak out, or forces people who engage to actually, want to talk to someone. Because in this part of the world, it's expected that if you're a man, you should man up. If you're a woman, you should be strong. Those kind of expectations. But during this pandemic, through those programs, people began to speak up. And then some of the effects that I discovered that that has affected people in this lockdown or the pandemic period are examples are depression. It's been on the increase. A lot of people are being open or being exposed or vulnerable to depression, especially due to the recent loss of jobs for some people. Then for those who are in businesses, especially those who have to do with contact, who has a lot to do with contacting people, you notice that there is a decrease in people patronizing them. Then you also notice in terms of parents who have actually who have actually built their life to be very busy. This period made them to stay at home with their children. And for some who are not so mentally and emotionally strong enough, they are breaking down. I met some mothers recently, even some fathers who have been forced, to stay at home, to work from home. They actually, the whole thing is overwhelming for them, taking care of the children and all that, because some of them have to send away their help during this whole pandemic because they have to get home and all that. Then we could also see the increase of domestic and domestic violence in the home, and some other types of violence also got increased in this pandemic. You could also see increase in abuse of pornography, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, because I've actually gotten some DMs recently, even some months back, people who didn't used to get entangled with pornography, before, due to, as the saying goes, an idle man is a devil's workshop. So that period that everyone had to stay at home, and for those who are still staying at home till this very moment, most times they find themselves idle. And just as I said, an idle man is devil's workshop. They started entangling in it, and with time they were getting addicted gradually. Talk of drug addiction, alcohol addiction, sexual addiction is just on the increase to them during this period. So I would say, from your question, it's not a white man's thing. If people can actually try to actually reach out for help, because there are a lot of people that can actually help them, that won't use their stories against them. Because most times when people reach out to me, they always say why they don't reach out initially is because the fear of people using their stories against them. But actually knowing the right people, or therapists and shrinks too, and clinical psychologists too, that they could reach out to, they can get the help that they need.
All right,
Okay.
I have a question for you, Vanessa.
Okay.
So you've mentioned a lot of works you've been doing related to emotional and mental health,
Yeah.
wellness.
Yes.
And you've also mentioned about people like coming out to reach out for help.
Yeah.
So my question is, how will a young person, a young Nigerian, know that or identify that he or she is having mental health problems? How will I say that I'm having mental health problem? And again, when we say mental health, a lot of people will just have this understanding, no, isinadiro man,
mad
all of that.
people.
So how will I know that I am having mental problems,
Okay.
mental health problems?
Okay, and in some of my programs, I have different platforms. I have the Moments with Vanessa WhatsApp group every week, every Tuesday. There's someone that comes in to talk on, topics bordering around our emotional and mental well-being. Let's say today we are talking about unforgiveness. There are people who are bottling up a lot. Do you understand? So when the speaker speaks on that angle, he or she touches some areas that will actually make you understand that you might actually be struggling with something like that. And then, there's also this one I run on Facebook, Winning Through the Battles of the Mind. A lot of people, when they reach out to, when they actually, realize that they might have a problem, they would actually speak like maybe the problem is so unique to them. Do you understand? So that other program I started, Winning Through the Battles of the Mind series, was to also make them understand that there's no issue that is peculiar to them. Do you understand? So most times it's just about attending programs and listening to the speaker. Because if you say, just like your question said, how do you know that you have mental health problem? Whenever I'm talking, I always tell people, try to expose yourself, because in exposing yourself, you actually expose yourself to trainings and teachings, especially if you're on social media. You get to see, you get to hear some things that will actually be a pointer to the fact that there might be something happening on the inside. And being a human being, you feel it, because some of these issues, we talk about low self-esteem, we talk about depression, that you're not actually confident enough. You actually have one thing or the other. You have the withdrawal syndrome. You just don't want to be around people. Something that maybe you used to have an interest in something, all of a sudden you start losing interest in those things, and it's not definitely you will actually detect or see some signs that would actually be a pointer to that.
Okay, now you being a pharmacist, right, and in the medical line, are there clear signs? Because like she said, someone needs to, those people, when you talk to someone else and then when you hear some stories, you will know that these things are part of what you're going through.
Yeah.
But are there clear signs that even people around you would see, and they know that this person is probably struggling with something mentally? Are there obvious signs that you don't necessarily need to see somebody or talk to someone or share an idea to know that, I probably might have a mental problem, from a layman's perspective?
Okay, thank you very much. Before I'll be able to react to your question, I would like us to outrightly define what mental health is. According to the World Health Organization, mental health is a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her capabilities and can cope with the normal stress of life, and also can work productively and fruitfully and contributing to the wellness of the community. And from this definition, you can understand that there was a clear deviation from the conceptualization that mental health is not just, you won't say mental illness is mental health is an absence of mental illness. Because if you would know that there's always an early stage signs and symptoms, because we don't say until it gets so bad I see them start showing signs, being violent, for they are mentally ill. No, that's why the youth are the main focus, because the early symptom starts from the early age of the youth. Now, looking at how, from the health perspective, how one would know is, as we said in the definition, state of well-being. That well-being is a huge is a complex word, but when we break it down, you know that there are things that normally interest you. They call it medical, we call it anhedonia, loss of interest. Maybe you like hanging out with persons, and all of a sudden people start annoying you, start withdrawing from people. It's not normal. If you notice, it's not normal. And if you notice also, in our Nigerian society, we are in quotes too religious. In the early childhood stage where persons start showing this kind of symptoms, the first thing Nigerians will do, they will rush to spiritual houses. That this is a sign of spiritual attack. It is not so. And to a large extent, early detection of mental illnesses contributes to how fast the treatment or the medical intervention would work. So to a large extent, I believe strongly that the early signs and symptoms appears definitely in that early age onset.
Withdrawal, depression.
Depression, okay, for depression, as you said, the signs of low self-esteem, emptiness, the feeling of I'm nothing, I'm nobody,
not good enough.
I'm not good enough. And there was a research that was carried out by Wendley where he said mental illness issues, the anxiety, mood disorders are basically affect both boys and girls equally. But for depression, that girls tend to be more vulnerable to depression. And in our society, as you earlier stated, where as a man you're expected to man up, as a girl you're expected to be strong and carry out every. So at this stage, people are advised to speak up. So the early signs of is that withdrawal. You see some persons you don't associate with others, and they also have grandiosity. That's what they call grandiosity. Grandiosity has to do with to a large extent, some of our young guys who are exposed to psychoactive substances, you see them, they feel they are bigger than everyone. They show signs of nobody can talk to me. You talk to them, they are always rude, aggressive, and any small thing they are associated with. Majority of them are associated with domestic violence. So you see, all these things is just a cascade of activities. So we shouldn't wait to a point of where it has started showing a very big sign. For it to get to that point, that means it has degenerated to a very bad point. Thank you very much.
All right.
Hey, Chukum, I have a question for you. So you work also as an intern pharmacist at the Neuropsychiatric Hospital,
Yeah.
and you people, you have good number of patients
Yeah.
at the hospital.
Yeah.
So can you say since the COVID-19 started, has there been an increase with the number of patients you're having? Because if someone is suffering from mental health issues, some of them come to your hospital, right?
Yeah.
So has there been an increase or decrease since the inception of COVID-19?
Okay. Actually, the lockdown really affected those visits, because if you check out, Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital Enugu is the only neuropsychiatric hospital in this axis. I mean the southeast.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it serves a whole lot of population. So that lockdown really affected persons coming over to the hospital. But even during the lockdown, we still had rising number of cases, because to a large extent, some persons had to be discharged, and they come from their medication. So in the OPD unit where I work, in fact, it's increasing, and majority of the patients in the facility are within our youths, within the age of 18 to 30 years.
So do you think there is an issue, Jefferson? Because I'm wondering, so do you think that mental health problem is a very big issue for young people? Will it affect our development as youths, or with us reaching our dreams and expectations and our responsibilities?
You know, majority of what you and I are today is how we cultivated ourselves when we were growing up. Because, you know, that youth stage is a very formative stage that need not to be altered. You need the best care, parental care, social care, from all angles. So at that point in time, if maybe you fall into the wrong set of friends, peer pressure, you get involved with all those things, it obstructs your behavioral pattern. So to a large extent, the youth are vulnerable to these mental illnesses.
All right, seeing that you said that the youth are vulnerable to this particular pandemic, this virus, and seeing also that the youth are the future of our of tomorrow. They are the future leaders. They're the ones that will make this decisions of how the world generally pans out. Do you think the government right now is doing enough to raise one awareness on mental health among young people, young Nigerians, and two, do enough to make sure that they are sound and they are well taken care of?
Okay, well, in my opinion, I think the government needs to do more, considering the fact that the specialty for psychiatric health is majorly at the secondary level, tertiary level. If the government will inculcate psychiatric care in primary health settings, so at every stage of the primary health care, maybe you come to this community, there's a primary health care there, a primary health care center, and maybe they discover early symptoms of mental illnesses in the youth. Definitely, from the primary health care system, they've started attending to them. Because if you wait to a point, if a majority of patients in the neuropsychiatric are persons they've actually started showing real symptoms. They are violent, they are aggressive, and in fact, they are already addicted. Early forms of, some of all the psychoactive substances. There's Diazepam, Valium, Refenol, Flunitrazepam, codeine, and the rest of them. If early they are detected, those addictions can be handled. Because if you notice, most of the cases we have there, they've stayed 10 years, 5 years.
So what needs to be done? What is it that the government or individuals or like we said earlier, NGOs, non-governmental organizations should do and to make sure this doesn't happen, it doesn't get worse? Okay,
what I think should be done is psychiatric care should be included in the primary health care, because it shouldn't be left till it has gotten to a reasonable level. Let it be inculcated in the primary health care service. In fact, it should be part of the normal routine. When you come to the hospital for checkup, it should be normal routine. They ask you certain questions. There are markers which the psychiatric doctors look out for. So from those questions, they will see if you start exhibiting early signs and symptoms of mental illnesses. And also, everything can't be done by the government. So to a large extent, I know there are a lot of NGOs that are into mental health, and also WHO, they've released certain publications. They've done a lot of research concerning mental health and the rest of them. So I believe NGOs also have a role to play towards the good health of the
You want to add something?
Okay, yeah, I want to add awareness. I believe there should be more awareness in this angle. The way you have adverts for a lot of other things, a lot of other, including the Covid-19, there should also be increased awareness of this mental health issues, what to do, what signs, if you see the signs, what to do, who to reach out to. And that's in addition to what he said, so that if they are included in the primary health sector, when this awareness is going on, they will know, okay, it's there. So when you see some things like this, you can actually stand up and go and see the appropriate professionals.
Alright, the phone lines are officially open. The numbers to call is 0902 0020925 or 009 8888 Our WhatsApp is still open with 0902 0020925, and our Twitter handle is also open at Dream925 FM. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon, Jefferson.
Good afternoon, Baba K. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay, Baba K from Oka.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to ask, this mental health issue, at what point does it get to the stage where someone will need surgery to correct the problem? And then these 400 people I see on the street that are running mad on the street, is it surgery that they need to correct the problem? And then please, Jefferson, I beg, after the news, most times by 1 o'clock, they always say to wake up for Jefferson and people, okay? And then I start hearing teachers teaching. Jefferson is not a teacher, so please, they should at least tell the students that need that information. They should let them know that after the news, then they should wake up for that class. You understand?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Baba K. All right. So you heard his questions. He was asking at what point does one need surgery to correct mental health? And those people on the roadsides, raving mad, do they need surgeries to correct the problem?
Okay, thank you. From my knowledge, mental illness is a whole complex illness. So it's not just necessarily, it has to do with mood disorders, and also we have psychosis. Now, under mood disorders, that's where we have depression, we have anxiety. And under psychosis, where we have schizophrenia. The, in quotes, mad persons you see on the streets, they are schizophrenic. And at what point is surgery needed? To a large extent, mentally ill individual is a psychological illness. It's not an organ damage, or it's not what you have to replace or something. So what I feel, or what I know, is that I think there are a series of tests that they'll keep on running as the treatment progresses. Those persons you see on the streets, they are schizophrenic, and to a large extent, I feel they are not really properly taken care of.
And so, in other words, they don't necessarily need surgery.
They don't really need surgery.
So what they need is treatment.
Treatment.
It could be in form of talking, seeing a therapist or psychiatrist.
And it's a gradual treatment, and it's a long-term treatment.
All right. Hello, good afternoon. Hello. 0902-0020-925 or 009-8888-925. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jefferson.
Good afternoon, sir. Your name?
I'm Chidi. I'm calling from Oka.
Chidi from Oka. How's Oka today?
Oka is fine.
All right, go ahead.
I think your guests in today, they are quite well informed.
All right, go ahead.
I want to say that, please, when issues like this are talked about, can we leave the government aside? Focusing on the government makes us see the government energy influence. What are the entertainment industry doing? I think depression and all this is now more of music videos, entertainment industry should be told to do songs that will correct, because the thing is psychology about what is not in your mind. And youth are focused on the television. What are they watching? What they are watching is causing them depression, not government. So when the thing is now off, you will now start calling them off. The second part is that I urge women for myself, women for informing one of the best stations in Nigeria. But me, this kind of information or this kind of program should be emphasized as often as possible about people who are living with that offer. It's too regular. Listeners in Oka and
All right, thank you very much. We go what you're saying. So he was saying that sometimes, most times rather, we look up to the government for to solve our challenges, and most of our challenges that some we can't solve ourselves. And then he went on to make some contributions.
He emphasized that entertainment industry should promote mental wellness in their movies, in songs, help in creating awareness for it.
Good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Your name?
Christian from Osaka.
Christian from Osaka. Please move away from your radio set, Christian, so we can hear you well.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Is there a period of the year that this mental illness is very high? Two, if someone has suffered this for a long time, does it mean there's no drug that can still make the person stable?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. You got that? He's asking if it's an annual occurrence, if it comes at some point in the year, and then also asked if there are drugs.
Mental illnesses. Yes, there are a whole lot of drugs. It has to do with you've been handling a patient for up to 3 years, there's an improvement, then all of a sudden there's a relapse. The patient goes back to square zero. So in most times what is done, mental illnesses are managed over time, and that's why it's advisable they take their drugs all the time, because to a large extent their drug play a very large role as to how better they will become. So if it's about treatment, there are a whole lot of drugs. I can't start mentioning them here, but there are a whole lot of drugs for mental illnesses. Then for his first question, whether is there a particular period of the year where there's a rise in okay, that's why we are here talking about the effect of the COVID pandemic on mental illnesses. In a period like this, in fact, so many things have happened. And now we also have to look at the triggers of mental illnesses. We talk of unemployment, underemployment, we talk of poverty and all those things. So these are things that readily expose persons or young persons to mental illnesses. So there's no period of a year in particular.
It comes.
Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello?
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Your name?
Hello?
So please, can you move away from your radio set, please, or turn down the volume of your radio set.
Hello?
I can hear you. Your name?
Yes, this is Momo.
Okay, where are you calling from?
From
All right. Please, can you still move away from your radio set?
Okay. I want to ask the risk of this mental illness.
Okay. All right. Keep listening. Hello, good afternoon. Hello. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Michael calling from Nsukka.
Michael from Nsukka. Go ahead.
I want to ask a question.
We're listening.
Can someone be born mental illness by mama?
Okay. With that mental illness is hereditary, yeah? Okay, so he's asking, the first one asked, what's the root cause of it, and then someone else asked, the second one asked if someone can inherit it, if someone can be born with such challenges, mental health challenges.
For the first question, I would say there is no specific root cause for mental illnesses. It just as my fellow speaker said, there could be different reasons. It could be coming from different places.
Like COVID-19 is one of them right now. So that's what we're treating.
COVID-19 is one of them. In fact, some of the people that reached out to me recently, it's actually from social media pressure. Sometimes people, you actually just assume that people are feeling a certain way about you or thinking a certain way about you, when in essence that's not the reality, and you begin to put yourself under a lot of internal pressures. So that could also be a pointer. Just as he said, unemployment, it could come from feeling of inadequacy and so on. Then the second question, could it be genetically hereditary? I would say no. I really doubt. Or do you have a different answer? Okay.
Right.
Thank you very much. Among the risk factors of mental illnesses, heredity has a big role to play, but it contributes to less than 5 to 10%. Actually, if we wouldn't say because your parents had mental issues, automatically you must have. But there are cases where some mental issues associated with some persons has to do with their gene and their DNA. So for those cases, yes, it's possible to be hereditary.
But are they treatable though? The ones that you talked about being hereditary, are they treatable?
Yes, every mental illness is, when you say treat, it's complete cure. It's being managed. So it's being managed. But definitely that management gives the best option and the best therapy.
Oh well, I wanted to ask, how do you know that is in, maybe you see a person and you just know that it's in their blood or it's in their gene? How do you identify that?
Actually, to a large extent, you cannot just see a person and see the person's DNA. You get. So it's, when you show signs and symptoms, definitely they'll trace the etiology. Where is it coming from? That's why the psychiatrists, they collect the patients. Do you take psychoactive substances? Does the person smoke? Is there any history in your family line showing that someone somewhere has had mental illnesses? So that's how it's been done. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, say your name.
Good afternoon, Simon from August. Alright. Talking about you, there are two youth, categories of youth, the employed and the unemployed. I think the depression is not of much on the unemployed, those ones that don't know. I call that government and the concerned persons. Look at youth that have ideas, businesses they want to do, but there is no funding for it. Those are the ones that are in depression, and I think they are qualified to be in depression. And what to do now to save them from depression is to give them funds with their businesses to carry out their ideas. Those ones that are not doing anything, that are lazy, will join later. Thank you.
All right. I don't quite buy your suggestion, but that's okay. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon, Jefferson.
Good afternoon, say your name.
It's Ozuna Declan, calling from the Charlie. I just joined the program, but I want to ask a question. Whether all the mental illness, because the way some of them are moving around from year to year, nothing goes on. I just want them to alert about that. That and God bless you.
Can you come again? We didn't get your question. What did you say?
I said whether all mental illness are curable.
I think you have touched on that particular question before, but can you go ahead and answer him?
Okay. To make it clear, mental illnesses are managed over time, and there are cases of relapse where even after managing, the patient shows good response and signs of improvement. There's still a relapse where the patient returns to zero level and starts showing all those initial signs, and they have to still manage them. So it has to do with managing over time.
Okay. So it's not permanent cure.
It's not permanent cure.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello?
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Your name?
Good afternoon.
Your name?
My name is Chukwulo, calling from Stock.
Alright, go ahead, Chukwulo.
Why is it that the market to feed from the bottle, but I don't want to see them buying or watching something like that?
Is there a question there?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't get a question, but I'm thinking he's trying to ask if he see them taking all this dirt, eating from the dustbin, but then
nothing happens to them.
Happens to them. Do they somehow grow super, mutate their genes? do their genes mutate to the point where these things not happen to them?
Actually, that's always been a question I've always had in my mind. That you see some of all this, even when there was lockdown, the mad guy, those patients with schizophrenia were walking on the street, and no single, I wouldn't say they have a stronger immunity as per se, because I've not seen any study that has proven that, but to a large extent, at the way they do things, they are at risk to certain infections, which definitely if they go for treatment, then it will be detected. But since they don't go for treatment, they keep, even if they are sick, you wouldn't know. So we can't say, okay, because they eat all these things, mean they are totally healthy. Because I know there are some, but
there are sicknesses that immobilize you, paralyze you, and then you can't do anything, you can't go anywhere. We sometimes once in a year or twice in a year or 3 years in a year, we have such sicknesses, like we just stay at home and we're unable to do certain things, but we rarely see these things with these people.
Actually, yes, that's a true fact. But I still have the opinion that even if they are down, we wouldn't know. They may be seated, you can't detect for true that they're having issues, so we wouldn't, unless maybe you probe further.
I agree with you. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Your name?
Hello. I'm Goodness from Sofia.
Goodness from Sofia. Go ahead.
Please, I want to ask a question. there's a gate in my compound. I've been open and say, I've gone away from convulsion. So the thing may make me and a brain. So I want to ask, when we can work out your PR, and when we are what I hear, as in mental issues, what can I do?
Okay, did you get that?
No.
Okay, she's actually said that she has someone in her compound that, you know,
A little girl
that suffers from convulsion, and then it somehow affects her brain or her thinking or whatever, her mental state. Is there a way? I'm right, but you know, they said work without faith without work is useless. 090200200925 or 00988888925. Our WhatsApp page is still open at Dream925FM. Sorry, our Twitter handle is open at Dream925FM, and our WhatsApp number is 090200200925. And we're still looking at the mental health challenges faced by young Nigerians during this pandemic, you know, caused by this pandemic, and how to manage it. But then, aside from government and all the things that government can do, let's talk about us as individuals.
Exactly, young people.
Like young people. How can we help ourselves in this period, right? I heard sometime, unfortunately, that COVID-19 is not getting away anytime soon. And some even said, Fauci, the doctor handling in the US, said it's possible that COVID-19 will always be here with us. It's just about how to manage it. So how can we, young people, start to help ourselves navigate through these challenges presented by this virus, and then, you know, save ourselves from suffering mental health?
That's the first, because sometimes people, okay, you don't actually, let's say someone has been active on a particular network, and all of a sudden the person is no longer there. Maybe someone that is very active and the person just goes off. It's necessary that we find time to check on people, especially this pandemic period. Then something I always tell them is having a tribe, have a support system. Every single person needs a support system. We are not created to be independent totally. We were created to be interdependent. I would use the word interdependent. So everyone needs a support system, everyone. So that when you're at your lowest moment, they're the ones that can, you know, encourage you and push you up. And something happens and you're pushed or you're pulled down to your lowest level, that gratitude list has a way of, you know, bringing you up again, because it serves as a source of reminder, a source of reminder, and just as the song says, count your blessings and name them one by one. It helps you to be grateful instead of being ungrateful, because sometimes when we are actually at those low moments, let's say you slip into depression because of maybe something, a situation you found yourself in is not working out at that time. You've been caught out of, you know, seeing things that are working, or things that you've been able to achieve in the past, and you're just focused on that thing that is not working. That gratitude list has a way of encouraging you, of pulling you up. Then we also talk about words of affirmation too. It also has a way of, you know, helping you, you know, speak life into yourself through words. Because those times that you're low, if you can stand before a mirror and speak to yourself, speak life into yourself through words. You know, most times when I say this, you know, and people say, let me even go and try what she said, and they try it and they come back and tell me, okay, there was actually something. It might look stupid, but it works. You're just looking at yourself in the mirror and you're speaking to yourself. It has a great, you know, effect.
You know, some people could look into the mirror and all they see is an ugly person.
I have a question, Jefferson. It is for you, Chukuma. Speaking from the medical angle, what advice do you have to tell young people on better ways to manage and ensure a good mental health?
Okay, thank you very much. As she said, from the point of psychology, let me also toe that line. Building relationship with others. You know, there are certain persons when you are around them, no matter how down you are, that mood will be uplifted.
True.
Family, friends, So the more you spend time with these persons, the more happier or more organized you become. Also talk about avoiding alcohol and psychoactive substance. I'm not coming here to say if you're a social drinker, you should totally avoid it.
Which one is social drinking?
Social drinking is maybe after a stressful day, you say, okay, let me relax.
One
take
for the road.
Yeah, just a cup of beer.
It's always interesting hearing people talk about substances like alcohol, right? I have sat in the studio once and the lady told me I'm going to die because I take alcohol. And he said it doesn't matter, no matter how much or how little you're taking. Once you take alcohol, you take alcohol. No. And now you're telling me I can take a bottle
I disagree
a day
with
or
you.
two.
I disagree with you. So
what ratio can you just give us a ratio so the people who actually abuse, someone who abuses alcohol might not know. Is it as long as I don't get high?
Yeah.
Or you can take 10 bottles. Some people can take a crate of alcohol and not get high. So to them that is not abusing it. So what do you consider moderate?
Okay.
Alcohol consumption.
Okay. Moderate is relative. When I say moderate is relative, but I will advise from my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Personal opinion.
Personal opinion. Okay. 1 to 2 bottles
a day or a week.
A week is enough.
1 to 2 bottles a week
is enough. Because mental health, we are responsible for our mental health. How you want to look at it, and we have to preserve our mental health. Back to our question, which you were saying from the medical angle, I was talking about avoiding alcohol, also psychoactive substances. There was a survey that was carried out in Enugu in secondary schools where about 15% of the students all have tasted or know what tramadol is. Tramadol in itself is a pain relief for moderate to severe pains. But because of the kind of short-term highness, some persons deal with pain with taking alcohol. No, taking psychoactive substances to deal with pain just gives a short-term relief. That pain is still there. Even if you take the whole crate of, the pain is still there. So the best way to address pain is not by taking alcohol or taking those substances that will make you high. So we have to we have to have a framework where we advise people, you don't take all these substances to give yourself relief. Some depressive patients, you see them taking these psychoactive substances, they feel all right. That's short term, but on the long run, it leads them to addiction. I know when there's an addiction, there's another problem on its own.
I'd like to also talk. Funny enough, someone on our WhatsApp page mentioned the Noel YM from Enugu. He said, "Good afternoon, Dream FM and guests in the studio. Please, can marijuana, that's Mary Jane, or excess alcohol lead to mental health problem?" And this question actually struck me because I know a lot of friends who smoke. Right? What they smoke is not my business, but they smoke, and some of them will tell you, "I don't smoke this, but I smoke this, and this can't get me mad, but this can." Right? For example, let me explain. Someone that takes cigarette will say, "I can't go mad for smoking cigarette," but someone that takes marijuana can, because it's a higher substance than cigarette. What do you say about that?
Okay, because they are taking it does not mean, to a large extent, it is not damage. Mental illness on its own has to do with damage in the neurons of the brain. There's a neuronal pathway. Let me not go to medical jargons, but take all these things. There's a degeneration of cells in your brain over time. And the truth is, a point will come where the manifestation of that degeneration, you cannot run away from it. So even if you've been taking it and you're fine now, does not mean on the long term you'll be fine.
That's it. So marijuana can actually get you crazy.
Yes, definitely.
Cigarettes can.
High consumption of cigarettes. Some persons can smoke up to 5 packs in a day, but the truth is, over time, they show their dangerous effects.
Right. So when such a person finds himself in that situation, right? I think realizing that you have a problem is where we are solving it. So when that person, a young person, finds himself in such a situation that is almost close to having a mental health issue, what should the person do?
The person should seek help. from the right professionals. That's what I would see.
But the problem about seeking help also is that this stigma, when you say mental health challenges, there is a stigma that comes with it. How can such people overcome it? Because someone might know I have a problem, but he is scared to share, even with his closest friends, because they would start running away from him or stigmatizing against him. So how can such a person, a young person generally, especially, navigate through these murky waters?
Okay, if you're seeing a therapist or a shrink or a counselor, definitely there is this patient professional discreet, as in confidentiality, that's the word. So you don't expect people to know what you must have shared with the person. It's private. But if it gets to the extent that it affects you, just as we said, the schizophrenia and any other one close to it, to an extent people might find out. But if it just has to do with something you can actually talk about and all that, you can actually go meet a professional. Definitely whatever you shared with a professional is private and will be kept confidential.
Right. It's been an interesting conversation, and I have learned a lot from this as well. Any final words from you before we wrap it, Chukwuma?
Okay. I would leave few notes of advice to the youths. There are tips to promote mental alertness, or to be mentally sound. One is taking time to relax. The truth is, problems doesn't finish. Every day we meet challenges. So at some point in time, when we see that the stuff is getting to us, we take a break. Stay away from everything. Get your mental capacity back.
And be taken care of.
So we should imbibe the habit of taking vacations, because Nigerians don't actually do that. I think it's another thing that we think is a white man's wahala.
Then I also want to talk about quality sleep. Yeah, quality sleep. It's not all about you're laughing. Are we all guilty of that?
We are.
Taking quality sleep gives you time to relax. At least sleeping 7 to 10 hours at night. I know some of us, we explore the electronic devices, the phone, all through the night. I will still wake up in the morning, I will go to work. It affects our performance. So having quality sleep, having time to relax, and also eating healthy. There's a research I saw that increase in fat, added fat and sugar has a negative impact on our mental health. Navigating through, majority of youth these days is not Cold Stone, it's shawarma, it's pizza, and the rest of them. If we channel these resources that we spend on this, should I say, what should I call them? Junk, exactly. And buy fruits. Fruits are very cheap. Relatively, it mustn't be buying everything. At least orange, you can get 100 naira orange, you can get apple for 200 naira. They help our mental alertness. And also exercising, at least from time to time you exercise, also build our alertness.
Okay.
Alright, thank you very much. You want your final words very quickly before we wrap it?
I just want to say, be you female or male, it's okay to cry. A lot of times people bottle up a lot in the name of being a man or in the name of being a strong woman. Whatever therapy works for you, just as you said, exercise, if it's yoga, if it's whatever works for you, if it's crying, then learn to actually take it easy with yourself. If you actually write down the battles that goes on in your mind and you write it down, ask yourself, can you stand before someone else and say that thing as if you're talking to the next person? So take it easy on yourself, enjoy your part in life, and love yourself, and most importantly, you love your part and love everything about you. Thank you very much.
Alright, and that's where we draw the curtain on today's edition of the Awakening program. Remember, this program comes to you every Thursday by 2 p.m. on the station, and also it airs also on Flow FM 94.9 Umuahia. Thank you very much, Chukuma Christian, Ugu Christian Chukuma, pharmacist and Young Pharmacist Group member. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. And also thank you, Vanessa Nadi, emotional and mental health coach, also the convener of Moments with Vanessa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, don't forget that the Awakening is by South Saharan Social Development Organization with support from Open Society Initiative West Africa and UK Department for International Development, DFID.
And that's it. My name is Jefferson, the name that will never change. And Winifred Maduko was here with me as well on this show. Stick around. Coming up next is... a lot, you know what we'll do, we'll bring you information and entertainment. So leave your dial here at 92.5 in the Dream FM, and we'll be sure to take care of the rest.